There you go.
Hello, world. This is Kimberly and Connor Tracy here from Big Red SEO, tuning in for our weekly recap. We have a jam-packed episode today.
Tons of stuff.
Tons of stuff. Not to only mention the weather here in Omaha, Nebraska, and the polar vortex that everybody has been experiencing from all over the place, but especially in the central areas of the United States. Hi, happy Friday. How are you?
Volume.
Hope you're doing great. Okay, so we're going to dive right in. We've got a couple different updates regarding some site navigation, guys, as well as just some website design stuff, and then some updates from Google that we're going to have Connor dive into. And I actually came from Sedona, Arizona in the desert and attended a couple different conference areas. So have some information with that as well, but we value your time extremely, so we're going to dive right in. Are you ready? No, he's not ready. So we have, when it comes to website design specifically, one of the last places that some designers as well as business owners look at and consider is their actual site navigation, right? Like a lot of times people just do the generic home, about, contact. We get it. We understand it. There's going to be those staples, right? Those evergreen pages that you're going to have. However, if you have services, you need to make sure that they are actually in line with the path of the end user. Sometimes people forget to put their services in the menu navigations. Mm-hmm. And other times what happens is they call pages different things that don't make any sense at all, right? It is very common that if you have reviews or testimonials that you actually call that page reviews or testimonials, right?
Definitely.
You can get away with saying stories. Like that's kind of acceptable now, especially with people being in the authentic world. But you probably would want to steer away from like case studies or any other information that you put inside that specific page, if that makes sense.
Unless it's a case study or unless it's a white paper, then call it just
Correct.
that.
Yeah. So you have your notes now. You ready?
Oh,
okay. Round 2. Connor's just having a moment today.
Here's the thing. I've got so much stuff that I want to talk about, but I know how much time I have to be able to talk about it. So I'm trying to allocate time correctly. But one of the big things, and I had mentioned it before, I actually posted a blog on it earlier this week, was the website structure and the navigation stuff. Mm-hmm. So I've run 3 audits so far this week, and all 3 of them were plagued with the exact same issue, which was the navigation wasn't clear, wasn't easy to read. And we fixed one on one website. We're working on another currently. But essentially, in this particular case, the large image that happens at the top of the page, they have text for the navigation. Mm-hmm. The text was black. The image on the hero image was also dark, and it's just not readable. So we changed that text to white. We made that text a little bit larger, and now it's navigatable or navigable. So, but the trick of the whole thing was that you had to have one set of colors on the home page, but once you got into the website, then it had a white background, so you couldn't just use standard CSS just to run the entire website.
Yeah.
So there was some conditions and stuff like that in there. Our own website, if you've been to our website, we use a banner across the top, and that's in a solid color. And that way, then, no matter what image we put in, it's always going to be showing up the way we want it to be.
Yeah.
So that's the easiest way around it. It's the way I would recommend it.
And I think that, like, when you're looking at design templates, right, guys, like, there's going to be these trends. It's actually interesting. When I was on my way maybe I was from Sedona to Flagstaff, I was in an Uber, and I was talking to a gentleman that owned his business for 5 years. Mm-hmm. And any time that you get me into a car for an hour to hour and a half conversation between driving point A to point B, this guy, like, made some bank on some advice. He probably wished he could have actually pulled off and took some notes, right? Because it just wound up being conversation. But there's certain trends that happen in website design. We do know that some of the designs now, they have the navigation that text disappears and so forth. You can still go in and customize them depending on what you're using, right? But at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you actually look and test your web design yourself. So prime example, we got contacted from a company a couple weeks ago, and they had white text for the top header, which on a normal image image looked fantastic, right? But then all of a sudden the slider switched and the background of the image was white. So you couldn't actually see the menu navigation, right? Yeah. And this specific one was actually a fashion, like clothing, right? So like white on the background was very common for them. And then it would flip to a dark color and then flip back over to white. So I think even when we're not telling you not to utilize your own images and utilize your own brand and your own style, but you do need to test these different things out. The other thing too is I came across a website that the mobile action for the menu navigation didn't work. So it was there. It physically looked like it was there. But then whenever I actually tried to test the menu tab, it didn't expand, it didn't open, it didn't go anywhere,
sure.
right? And whether it's...
And sometimes we see that with an overlap. So like an image will overlap where the image is and then the navigation doesn't work or doesn't expand down. Is that what you're saying, that the navigation buttons were there? It just
actually,
open?
this specific one that I audited, it wouldn't open at all. So there was a menu, there was no link, there was nothing built there, right? So in their defense, they could just not have a menu navigation at all. It by default popped in there. But I think the overall message, guys, is be sure to test your own website and be sure to flow through your own website yourself, right? Make sure you feel it. Is it working? Is it not working? Another thing that's very common, and I think this happens because advertising companies, right, whether it's TV, radio, billboard ads, whatnot, they'll do the phone number and they'll do like a letter, right? Like they'll do a 1-800 something food or flowers or whatever it is, right? Sure. It makes sense when it's on TV, it's on radio, and it's on billboards. However, where it doesn't make sense and where it falls apart is actually on the website. So whenever you put your phone number, if you actually have the letters and you go to click it, people's phones are not going to dial that. Phones don't recognize actual letters.
You can put some code in the background to resolve that, but yeah, out of the
gate, it doesn't work. Yeah, in general cases, what I'm talking about is the people that are DIY or the basic website designers that don't understand it. It's cool that is actually an option. But in most cases, you want to just keep it really simple so Google can come and scrape your website, figure out what the phone number is, right? Because on Google My Business, you don't want to put letters in the phone number. Right. You'll confuse Google, right? And that's the last thing that we want to ensure that we do in this whole entire process.
We talk about from the Google end of things, Google themselves, they can figure it out. The problem is everybody else has issues.
Right.
So your information gets fed out to Yelp or out to Yellow Pages or out to Brown Book or whoever, Dex knows and so forth. Yeah. The problem is they have restrictions that you can't use letters, so therefore they can't import the number, and now they will then replace it with numbers instead of letters. Yeah. And now your name, address, phone number no longer matches. Therefore, you lose SEO power overall. Yeah. So there's little quirks along the way.
If you guys can't tell, there's a lot that goes behind website design that maybe is not at the forefront of a lot of people's brains. And that's why we're here. That's why we're tuning in to help you guys be able to steer and navigate those waters.
From a designer's end, a lot of designers don't think about that. But because we're from the SEO perspective and then design, they're the things we're watching for all the time.
Yeah. So cool. So another thing too, and Conor wrote an excellent blog, so be sure to come to the website and read this blog. Kim? It's actually on BigRedSEO.com. It was on the screen, but it's not there anymore.
Oh, well, there you go.
Okay, so the thing is,
it's on BigRedSEO.com.
Right? I know, right? There's like right there.
You gotta go the reverse opposite way of it.
I don't know. Okay, so the other thing too is make sure that you don't forget about your footer, right? So I'm actually working on consolidating a client's website. She has two totally different aspects of business, right? We're consolidating it back into one. Long story short, and the thing is that we want to make sure that the end user experience is super simple. So there's not a lot in the top navigation of the header of the website. It's very simple, direct. What are you looking for? A or B, go, contact us in general. But what we're doing is we're actually putting more detailed pages and services in the footer of the website, right? So don't forget about the footer of your site. You can utilize those for links. And if people are searching and they're going down that far, they might very well click into a different area of the navigation or get into an external page that has a different navigation and be able to go into there as well.
Yeah, one of the things that I face on a regular basis, if you go down through the page, you've scrolled all the way down to the bottom, and then it's the now what situation. Yeah. So we always talk about call to actions where you should be guiding the user at the end of an article or at the end of a page. You should be guiding them into doing something else.
I'm going to give a hypothetical story that just popped in my head.
Okay, here we go.
We need to get the oil change in her car. I'm going to go this weekend, right? But most cases...
That part is not hypothetical.
I know. No, most cases, I would walk in and say, hey, I need an oil change. How much do you charge? And if the person says, I don't even know how much oil
like
changes go.
To the 30
but
or
if they
60.
say da-da-da-da-da for the amount, and then the conversation stops...
Right.
Am I getting an oil change? Am I not getting an oil change? Where am I going? So if the person says, oh, it's such and such dollar amount, would you like us to do the service? At that point, it's
we can
leading
get you
me.
in right now.
Yeah, it's leading the end user to the next path, right? But what we see happen is, and this is very common in like content creation in a blog, right? Or even page content. They'll tell about the story and all their skills. And at no point is there a conversion of, hey, give us a call to schedule an appointment. Or, hey, do you have extra questions? Give us a buzz. Especially when it comes to articles, like don't be afraid to put questions. Like on this last article, Conor put in a couple different questions to tag in the feelings and the emotions of the end user. Like maybe they're experiencing some like mad, or maybe they don't understand something, they're experiencing confusion, right?
So with that, go on. Yep, sorry.
Yep, go on.
With that, go to the website. You'll see the questions at the bottom of it. But yeah, the call to action is, I want you to do this, or let me know how this is. So right here in the video, go there and check that out. Go on.
Yeah, cool. So do you guys get it? Yeah, you got it? Got it? Okay, cool. So what's going on in the world of Google?
Lots of different things.
Okay.
So yesterday, what day is today? Today's the 8th. Mm-hmm. Yesterday was the 7th, and the day before was the 6th. I can do math. But anyway, yesterday and the day before were just crazy online in terms of what's happening with Google. There was an algorithm update, or at least what we're seeing is an algorithm update. All the different services are reporting it. Everything from Mozcast, Cognitive is reporting it, Rankaroo is reporting it. But basically, something is happening on Google. When we looked at the actual categories across the board, every industry, every category, from arts all the way down to e-commerce websites and so forth, all of them are all being affected. The only industry that we saw not being affected is real estate. I don't know why, but they had like a 2.3 or a 3.0 in terms of volatility. It's on a scale of 0 to 10. And on average for the entire day yesterday, it was at like a 7.7. So it was kind of all over the place. It's still not known 100% what's going on. There are some things that have happened with Google My Business and the search engine console. Google has added more things to the search engine console, but they've also removed the UTM flags that were happening on the Google My Business page. So we would track when a user comes in from Google My Business, and did they come to the website? How did they actually come to the website? And for some reason, the search engine console has stripped that. Is it a bug or is it a feature?
For you non-technical people, bear with us. He's going to recap it towards the end.
It's really, it comes down to, is it a bug, is it a feature? And right now, we're leaning on the side of it being a bug.
Yeah.
But essentially, we're not able to track a user that finds you in a search engine where they actually came from, what keyword they used inside of your Google post and so forth.
Right.
So there you go. That is my layman's explanation. Kim, interpret that.
Google's testings and stuff like they always do. Bear with us. If you go into your reports, you may not see some data. Don't freak out. Give it a week or two. You'll get the final answer. Check back in.
Yeah, it's too new. It's yesterday.
Right? So it's all about testing. Like they're always going to test, right? Like we actually were just doing searches for a different industry in the ads, and they changed the text size font of the ads again, right?
Yeah,
so they're
the
constantly like changing different stuff. Just bear with it. Conor likes to geek out on the technical stuff. The SEO people know exactly what he's talking about in that whole thing.
Yes.
So if you are an SEO expert, we love you. Love
the sky is falling.
Yeah. No, you're fine. You're fine. Okay, cool. So you had talked about a couple other things for sites, websites, some audits that you went through. Do you have a couple other areas to help people?
No.
Okay, cool. So here's a couple of things. As you guys know, I went. Oh, go ahead.
There is one new feature that Google has updated. It's called Lighthouse. Inside of Google Chrome, if you right-click and you go into Inspect Element or Control-I, Command-I on a Mac, there's a section now in there called Lighthouse, when you click on that and then have your website load, it'll run a version of a website audit for you.
Cool.
It'll give you some speed rankings and some information that Google
Cool.
is seeing. So that is a new thing that has come out, or it's been expanded upon for February 2019.
Cool.
So
a couple things that have come up with a couple coaching clients that I've been working on with the past 3 weeks is if you're running a business, it's very easy to say, this time last year we were dead. This time last year we didn't have any business. This time last year, da 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 da. Or to get into the language of the industry is experiencing A, B, and C, right? I'm not saying that it's not true and it's not there, but as you guys know, we put our attention on things, and where our thoughts go, things grow, right? So my thought and my advice to a lot of my different clients is approach it with curiosity. Like, approach it with, what is it that I can do? Maybe there is an industry dip. Maybe it's going to slow down business-wise, but what can you do with that extra time to either generate new prospects, get new business in, maybe become a little bit more creative, create different outlets for you, or to be able to get ahead of the curve. So whenever you're in the busy season and you're in the thick of it and you feel like you can't keep your head above water, maybe you can put your blog on autopilot because you already created the content, or do different stuff. Yep. It's very easy, like whenever we think, oh, business is going to be slow this time of year, we kind of put our brakes on ourselves, especially as business owners, and we expect it to go slow. And then what I've seen is a pattern, and this happens definitely through the holidays, is people slow down to the point where they stop, and then it gets painful because they have to start the momentum again to get going again, yep. Right? So instead, just approach it with curiosity and be like, what can I do to change it? What can I do to enhance it? Kind of add that. The other thing that I'm seeing, and this isn't just with my coaching clients, it's just in general businesses altogether. People are saying, I want to grow, but in the same time, they're using language like, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. I have a jam-packed schedule. I can't fit anything else in. I get it. Like, there's the doing to be busy, and then there's the doing to be productive. But here's the thing. How are new sales going to be able to come in and drop into your creative world if you don't have space for them?
I think the big thing out of it is, how badly do you want it?
Yeah, and I think like sometimes it's a matter of mindset, right? It's a matter of paying attention to the language that you're using too, right? It's even if you want it really, really bad, people can still get stuck in that language of I don't have time. Mm-hmm. And if you mentally believe in your belief system, you don't have time to take on any more business, your sales are not going to grow. Yeah. You're going to bomb the sales call. You're going to bomb the prospect call. You're not going to go in and lean in and ask for the sale. Instead, you're going to be like, I can't breathe. I can't take on any more business, right? So you've got to like try to cut cords with that and create space for you to be able to grow. And maybe it's a matter of like Conor, he dives in and figures out, what system do I need to optimize to be able to automate a process so I have more time, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe it's you get more structured with your days. Maybe you decide to time block. Maybe you check email 3 times a day versus being in it all the time. Maybe you theme days out, right? Like that's also very, very popular. Yep. Or maybe you come in on a Saturday for 3 hours when you know you're not going to be interrupted to hammer out some stuff, right? And then that way you can step forward and actually have space and room to grow throughout the process.
Well, even we were talking, that middle of the day, being able to take a break, even if it's just an hour or an hour and a half, being able to take a break, whether it's take a nap, turn off the lights, or go get food, whatever.
Sometimes I do all 3 of those, not at once, but one right after another, right?
But some way of being able to break up that day so that it's not just work.
Yeah, and the other thing too is it's so easy. I have one specific client that's like, they're super, super busy, or they're completely dead and slow. Mm-hmm. Super, super busy, completely dead and slow. You can't see my guys.
Your hands are
super busy, completely deadly slow. And it's like a pendulum, right? And it just keeps going from one extreme to the next extreme to the next extreme. So I'm working with them with mindset to be like, hey, how can we get you into the center? What needs to happen to get you into the center where you can step in and be like, yeah, I got this. And if I get $10,000 extra dollars in the month, like kudos to me, I got it. But also, how can you deliver the work to perform that, right? Versus maybe they're only at $250 and they're trying to get to $10,000. And I would always say remove the word try, right? Just do. But they're doing what needs to happen to get to $10,000. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I don't have any time left. Well, how are you going to get from 10 to 20, right? So like, It starts with our language, it starts with our thoughts, but then also what is it from extreme ownership that you need to do? Is it that you need to get up an hour to 2 hours early in the day so you have you time so you can step forward and do what you do well and not feel depleted? You guys know that we're extremely open and vulnerable. For years, whenever I started this business, I would roll out of bed and go right into work, right? That no longer works for me, right? Yeah. I have a lot of people under my umbrella, a lot of different projects. But it no longer it works for me to roll out of bed, get in the shower, come into work. I have to take time for myself to be able to get started and get ready to create space, right? Yeah. So that's one of the things that came up. The other thing too, I actually had a really good, I have this ability to walk into places and drop truth bombs. And I did with this specific person, but also in the same breath, creativity needs space too. Right? Yep. So I have some clients that are afraid that their ideas are going to go away and they're not going to keep coming. And it's kind of interesting. It's a fear that I honor for them, right? But what they don't realize, and we're working on it now, but what happens is they have a fear that the ideas are going to go away, but it's actually them not taking action on the existing ideas that make the ideas go away. Does that make sense? It's kind of a big one. So creativity will always be there, but it has to have space to breathe as well, right? You have to, even if you want to write a blog article, this guy goes to Safari. He goes to Safari, gets a cigar, gets a little drink. Sometimes it's wine, sometimes it's whiskey. The gals who know who he is, he has a quick chitter chat, says hi to the clients, gets into his laptop and starts writing, right? You have to create space. So you have to create these rituals for space, but then also honor it too. Because if you don't, then it's just going to go away and it's going to fizz. One quick thing I always recommend is grab a notepad and write ideas down. And then I use a technique where I do ... And then whenever I come back, it actually triggers the thought that I had, right? It's a really cool thing.
Yeah, when I do my writing, usually when I start writing a blog article, I'll go off on a tangent and I just continue on that tangent. So the article that I start to write may not be the article that I end up with.
Yep. We had that happen a couple times.
I take sections of that.
Trying to draft it, I'm like, what is he talking about? He went off to the other side.
So taking those sections or whatnot, hitting enter a couple times and then starting off with your next paragraph. I've got documents so I use Google Drive all the time. So I've got a document inside of there that has partially written articles. Yeah. They might be one paragraph, it could be 7 paragraphs, but it's partially written, it's not fully thought out. But having it written down somewhere, whether that's from the writing down in a notebook or using, from my end, I write with a laptop. So yeah. That's the process that I do.
It's cool. It's cool. So another thing that I wanted to talk about real quick, and this can actually help in your website design. It can help in your content creation. It can help in your social media strategy. It can actually help in your business altogether. It's figure out what your skill is and lean into it and own it completely, right? So we're niched in SEO, pay-per-click, and web design and WordPress. It's what we know. It's what we live and breathe. Can we help with other things? Yes, absolutely. We have other skills. However, this is what we choose to do. And then now I do the mentoring and the coaching side of things, but this is what we choose to do. So we own this industry, we own this area. And so when we learn based on this area. We're not going to go out and learn how to wash windows. Not that is not a good skill for anybody that washes windows. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that are like, I want to start this business, but I'm not really sure. Figure out what that one skill is. Mm-hmm. And hone in on it. Dominate. And there's actually a book called, I think it's The One Thing. I would highly recommend anybody to read that. It is a great read. I think it's by Ivan. I don't know. Oh, no, Gary Keller. The One Thing. But see if you could also apply that to your business too, right? What's one thing, one skill that you can hone in on and help grow? It's one of the areas whenever I do mentoring and coaching, I drop in and I ask them if in the next 30 days you could grow your business in one area, what would it be? And we actually focus on that specific service. Mm-hmm. Get them revenue coming in, get them momentum coming in, and then hone in on that skill and figure out the next set. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Connor, do you have anything else you want to share with everybody?
I do. I've got stuff that you don't want to talk about.
Oh, what is it? Is it the pirate? So he told me an interesting thing about pirates, guys.
It wasn't about the pirate, but I'll let Kim go ahead and explain this because I want to see the animations of her using her hands over her
we're
eyes
driving into work today, right? So we're driving into work. This is how I was driving. So this is how I was. Well, actually, I think I was like this. But I'm driving into work today, and Connor tells me So it's something related to
we were coming
into the garage, so we're bright, sunny, come in dark, and I was like, oh man, my eyesight kind of gets a little wonky whenever I come into the garage because it goes from sunny to dark, right? And we got into some conversation, and he was telling me that the reason why pirates wear an eye patch is not because they're missing an eye, but it's because when they're up on the top of the boat, I was going to call it a sailor, when they're on the top of the boat and they go down below the deck, they can just like lift their patch off, and they've got one eye that can see clearly and the other eye is blinded, right?
Right. So one eye is always adjusted to the dark.
Yeah.
And then one is always adjusted to the daylight outside. It's really useful for when you're running down, so I would assume if you're up on deck and you run down and you need to run down through whether it's cannons or whatever else.
Yeah.
When you flip that open, now you can see and you're not going to trip over stuff.
And so like my logical brain was like, well, wait a minute. Like if you constantly have a good working eye covered, is your good eye eventually going to stop working or get weak because it doesn't ever get utilized in the light, right? It's like these are the things that I have questions on. But then the part that blew my mind was I was like, why did I think that all pirates only had one eye with wearing a patch? Because they have the patch. And I was like, oh, they wear the patch because they're missing an eye. And then that started into the conversation of, do all pirates have parrots? Right? Because like every movie, a pirate has a parrot, or you see coloring books, they all have birds. And then it went to, do they also have monkeys? Because on the Pirates of the Caribbean, the monkey would steal the gold. And then
this
it went
is the
to,
crap I deal with.
Does all monkeys know how to steal gold? And this is the world in my area where it started driving into a parking garage, and then this whole facade of a lot of Google searching, people, a lot of Google searching. I will leave it to you to figure out what is true and what is not true. Okay, Connor, you said you had one thing you wanted to chat about. What is that one thing?
I had one thing that really, I mean, we've been dealing with it for the last 3 weeks, and it's dealing with the hosting company in particular, where the hosting company has gone MIA, completely just disappeared. They're not responding to tickets. They're not responding to support issues. The problem is that they also control domain names. So I've chatted with probably a dozen people so far, maybe a little bit more, resellers, hosters, stuff like that, that are all essentially held hostage by this hosting company because they've gone missing. So there are ways around it. So basically contacting their registrar, so their reseller that owns the domain names, contacting them, they'll get that released. So I've been in communication with one of the companies.
And just really quick, if this happens, guys, and you need to communicate with the next level up, like the domain registrar, make sure you have a paper trail of all the communications that you've had, or that you've attempted to have with a specific company, if that makes sense. That
ticket
does help.
Numbers, dates, all that stuff. That's all going
to
to
help. It is required. They are going to ask for it, so just cover your bases and have the information.
So essentially, the idea was, and as I was talking to some of not only our own clients that are using the company, but also other resellers and VPS owners and so forth. And a lot of them are being concerned that, they've essentially lost everything. They've lost their website, lost their domains. So once again, I'm going to drill into you. Please make a backup.
Yeah.
Make a backup of your website. Have your domains at whatever locations, whether that's, I use Google Domains because chances are Google Domains not going anywhere. But have your domains at one place, have your hosting at another, generate your backups, keep all your backups.
Yeah.
Okay? So that was the one thing that I really wanted to talk about. But to amplify that just one level a little further, there is a company called Digital Exchange. And they deal with Bitcoins and stuff like that. But the owner of the company basically would not give passwords out to other people. He has all of that himself. And it's been fine. It's a Bitcoin system, whatnot. It's $137 million right now that is lost or inaccessible because the owner has unexpectedly died. Isn't that morbid? Okay. So essentially...
Could you guys feel my energy?
I know.
Where did this go? I don't understand.
But essentially, the person would not share his passwords with anybody. He held them to himself and literally took it to the grave. So there are now investors and people who have bought into this Bitcoin exchange through digital exchange that now...
How long did you hold this tidbit of information? Were you sitting on this for a couple days now, or did you just figure this out?
This was this week. I know. These are things I don't tell Kim because she doesn't want to know about it.
I'm like, I can't tell, guys, if this was the thing that he knew that I didn't want him to share, or if it was the thing before.
Well, they tie in together. And that's essentially what I was going with, was like, making sure that what you're investing in is solid or whatnot.
Like the thing is like, here's the deal is I had another conversation with another Uber driver, and we were kind of talking about our business and kind of what we do and how we do it a tad bit differently, if that makes sense. And one of the things, guys, that we hope the messages that you guys could get from anything that you get from us, we hope that you get this. As a business owner or a person in general, you have the right to own your own things. You can register your own domain name. You can create your own web hosting account. You can actually purchase your own website design. Even if you have a website designer create it for you specifically, you'll have to look at the logistics. But at the end of the day, always lean into, will I own this design outright when it's done and completed and I've made the final payment, right?
Yep.
At the end of the day, just because you have a website or you have a website designer or you have a hosting company and they make backups or they manage stuff, don't assume that it's actually going to be done. Because the thing is like a lot of these companies, and we have a fluke in the fact of the company that we used kind of went MIA. They actually did go MIA. They kind of sprinkle in a little bit and then they disappear again. But the whole point is that we went and started making backups of client sites automatically when we saw the pattern, right? We were able to shift, move, and pivot and help some companies out getting back up online, right? But at the end of the day, please make it your responsibility. Please add it to your list to make a backup once a month. If you need assistance with knowing how to do it, these web hosting companies actually do really, really great step-by-step documentations online. Yeah, I get that it's not an industry that you go to, so you might grab to, I'm not very tech savvy and I might not know this and I might not know that. But if you do anything, if you learn any skill, making a backup of your website is a great thing that you can have that will save your ass if it needs to, and it'll help your business. So if you get anything from us, it's one, make sure that you own everything in your business in general. And this is anything marketing wise. If somebody does Google AdWords for you from an agency, have them put it into your account, not their agency account. You will get flack with it. They will say, no, that's not how we do business. It doesn't matter if that's not how they do business. If you want that done, either have them do it or go find somebody else that will do it. So you own the ads, because what happens is there was another person that was gathering reviews and then all of a sudden they canceled the subscription to that company or canceled that service with their company and all of their reviews disappeared, right? This happens, guys. Like it definitely happens. It's not stuff that we like to talk about and chat about. But specifically, whenever I was in this Uber car, I was explaining this is what we do. We want to put ownership and power into the business owners as well as the marketing people. And it's kind of what sets us separate, right? We're not here to hoard things, but then in addition to it, it makes you guys powerful. There's nothing like somebody that's not tech savvy, learning how to make a backup of their website. And they actually send us kudos. Hey, I made the backup of my website emails, and we respond back to them. That's a huge thing. That's a huge breakthrough for them to be able to see that they actually hold and control their own business. And not just
your website backups, but also your regular personal computer.
Yeah.
I mean, you've faced it. I've faced it. I've had servers fail. I've had my own home computers fail.
I used to like to blow computers up before I got energy.
I don't have it on my desk. I've got a portable hard drive that I just plug into USB and I generate a backup on there. So
I think it's called Passport. You get a Passport. It's a Passport device.
It's like $60.
We're not going to say where you got it from because we're not sponsored by anybody, but it's a bit. Just get one. It's called Passport. Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. We hope you have a great weekend. We're going to dive into some more work for the afternoon. If you have any questions, feel free to ping us and let us know. We will be tuning in next week at 2:30 or 2:30-ish. Somewhere in between the 2:30 time.
Usually right around that 2 o'clock, 2:30 time. Of course.
We should actually change our images moving forward to say 2:30-ish.
So,
it's
of
like
course,
Irish
we've got our YouTube address on there.
Yeah.
So go to our YouTube and check that out. Of course, the blog that I wrote, go to our website, check out that blog. And then, yeah, that's pretty much
cool.
everything.
Hope you have a great weekend, and we will chat to you again soon. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Have a great day. Thank you.